everyone at the end of the webinar. My name is Tom Quessy, and I'm the head of digital sales here at LKCS. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the options that we offer to help you manage your website. So, before we jump into it, for anyone who may not be familiar with us, I'd like to take a second just to go over who we are here at LKCS. LKCS was founded on the core values of providing the best service, highest quality, fast turnaround, and fair pricing. We continue to stand by these values today as we evolve our marketing, digital, print, mail, and statement services to fit the needs of our customers. We're a full-service marketing company, and we've been in the business since 1961, and we've worked predominantly with financial institutions the entire time. We provide a full range of products and services, but today we're going to be focusing on website management. So, however, if there's anything else that you're wanting to learn more about, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So let's talk about managing your digital presence. There is pretty much no way to avoid being online at this point. You need to be able to offer everything that you can do in your branch online. And if you can't, you're losing business. And that's just the bottom line. So besides just having everything online, this also means you should be able to manage your digital presence. You should have no trouble making updates and changes on your own to anything that you have out there on the web. In this webinar, I'll be going over the different tools that we offer for managing your website. This includes Sitefinity, our recommended CMS, the LKCS tool suite, a custom set of tools that we've created to potentially make difficult edits easier, and our form builder, a tool that's useful for creating secure online forms. So today I'll be discussing how our tools can help you make daily edits on your website content, how easy it can be to make new pages and then manage the main navigation of your site within our tools, and generally why the CMS that I'm going to be recommending outclasses many of the other systems out there. I'll also talk about the LKCS tool suite, which I mentioned is a set of tools that can be integrated into your site to make life a bit easier as you're making website updates. These tools have custom created solutions that are a perfect fit for financial institutions. They do things like help manage rates, announcements that you need to get out there, and things like third-party pop-ups that can be necessary for your site. Lastly, when I dip into our form builder, I'll be talking about how this solution can help you to create custom responsive forms. These forms can be very complex and work to your exacting specifications. So I'll touch on how you can take advantage of the features within that software to take your forms to the next level. So let's jump into it. Keeping your website up to date is something that you should be able to do on your own. This is necessary for keeping your content fresh and for fixing any issues that come to light as some of the different online standards or requirements change. A lot of things can happen quickly, so it's very important for you to have the ability to make changes to your website exactly when you need them. If you have to wait days or longer to get simple content changes made, then this could be turned into a bigger issue going forward. Having a reliable CMS that you can manage yourself is a game changer. I'll be referencing CMSs a lot in this presentation, so just to be clear, when I say that, I'm talking about content management systems. When working on a site, you need to spend time thinking about more than just its looks. It's important to plan how you're going to be making changes in the future. To extend the longevity of your website, you need to give it the ability to grow and change. And that should ideally include you being able to manage the majority of those changes when you want to. So this all begins with your content management system. This is the main way that you'll be making updates and edits throughout your site. It's the foundation that the site is built on, and it's very important to your experience while kind of controlling everything once it's launched. Your content management system needs to be able to help you change headers and body text, rearrange your navigation structure, add and replace any images that you need to, add and remove any pages as your site grows, adjust the layouts of the site, and utilize video, images, PDFs, and other elements just to make your site experience as exciting as possible. So our recommendation for your website content management system is Sitefinity. This is the CMS that we build the majority of our sites in, and it has the features needed to stand above the rest in terms of usability, security, and administration. So we get asked a lot about exactly what you can do within the system. So I'm going to walk through some of what the normal edits you'll be making look like and show just how easy it is to make changes to your website. Here we are in Sitefinity, viewing the pages for this particular website. From here, we can click into any of these to start editing these pages. But just as an overview here, at a glance, we can get a lot of information. So we can see when pages were created and by who. We can also see what pages are currently published and live on the site. Or if pages are saved as drafts. So we can kind of see that here. You can see that some pages will have this green check mark next to them, which shows us that it's published and live. Others below that we can see have this folder icon, meaning that that's a group page that's kind of nesting pages beneath it in our navigation. And if we had a page saved as a draft, that would show up as a kind of gray icon with a pencil in it. And this shows that the page has a newer version of it that's visible to us on the back end in this tool, but not currently live on the website. From here, we can also very easily reorder these pages in any way that we like, which can then be immediately saved and published to change the navigation of the live site. This is as simple as dragging and dropping pages into new positions or into these groups if we wish them to be nested beneath another page. And from here, we're also able to create new pages and then drop those into our navigation. So as you can see, when it comes to managing the pages and layout of your website, this CMS excels at keeping things organized and simple. Let's take a look at what making edits to a specific page looks like. So if I click on a page in here, on my screen now is an example of what you would see in Sitefinity when you're making edits to a page. As you can see, it's kind of using a WYSIWYG editor. In this editor, you'll notice that all these elements on the page get separated out into different widgets. These widgets are these boxes that can be dragged onto the page and then edited independently. After dropping these widgets onto the page, we can easily add elements like call to action buttons, like we can see at the top of the page. We can add images, like the one visible on the right-hand side in here. And we can add like specially styled sections. You might have us create some for you if we built out your site, if we have any special layout we want to create, or text blocks, which tend to be the bulk of what you'll be using in editing as you're going across your site. So if we hit edit on any of these content block widgets that have been dropped in here, we'll be taken into the text editor. So here's an example of what this text editor looks like when you click into a widget. And I can't stress enough, you do not have to be a programmer to make any of these changes. This user-friendly editor works just like any word processor that most of you will be used to. In here, you can see all of the normal options that you would have in that sort of software. Things like bolding the text, italicizing, creating bulleted lists, numbered lists, adjusting the alignment of text on the page. These are all very easy things to accomplish using all these familiar buttons across this top toolbar. Beyond those simple tools, though, it also has features that'll make your life easier specifically for managing your site. At the top left, you'll see a drop-down. Here, we can add in preset text styles when we design and build your website. This makes it so you can simply highlight text and then pick an option from these preset options that we've programmed in to match your brand and then to keep everything cohesive throughout your content. One thing this is also great for is website accessibility. As you can see here, you're able to drop in headings. So here we can see heading 1 and heading 2 as some of our options within this dropdown. Like I described before, they're styled by us to match your branding, but they can also work as header tags within the code. These are important for accessibility when any user is navigating your site using a screen reader. And when used correctly, they can vastly improve that user's experience for anyone that's navigating pages this way. And it's important to say this is something that we often see get flagged as errors when we do our accessibility scans on different websites. It can also be something that's very easy to avoid with a setup like this and just a little bit of education on the topic. So one thing we do here at LKCS is after building any of our sites, we offer training on our CMS and also to go over dropping content. And we try to help you understand how to avoid some of these common accessibility issues like this one, for example. Besides everything I already mentioned, it's also very easy to insert links in the text, create tables, or embed videos from places like YouTube or Vimeo, things that you'll be wanting to do on your site quite a bit. Everything I've discussed here are just extremely easy changes to make within the system without having to touch any code. If you did want to look at the code, you can do that for each one of these widgets. At the right-hand side of this toolbar, there is a toggle where you can switch it to look at what the HTML code looks like. But that's definitely not necessary, and most people just work within this view right here. After you complete edits to your page, you'll have all of your publishing options located at the top. So here you'll be able to make the decision of how you want to move forward with this page. If everything's ready to go, you can simply hit publish to immediately push this page live. If you still have some work to do and you want to come back to this, you can save pages as a draft for later. This is also a great way to continue forward if you'd like to send out previews to other members of your team for review before publishing anything. Lastly, we can schedule this page to publish at a future date. So this is great if you're looking to have something go live at a very specific time. With this CMS, you can schedule it down to the minute of when you would like it to go live. And we often see this get used for promotional pages where you might want to set up a landing page for a specific offer. This way, you can set everything up ahead of time for this page to go live when the promotion starts, and then even set it up to unpublish when the promotion's finished. This can also be great for using it for pages that are already live. So you can schedule updates to text on the page ahead of time. We see this get used a lot for compliance reasons when you may need to put out some very specific information and you can only update it at a certain time and not before, not after. You want it to go out exactly at the right time. Speaking of compliance, here's a feature that many auditors love to see. Each page within Sitefinity has a revision history of its changes over time. So that's page by page. Here we can see any time that this page has had a new draft saved for it, or has had changes published. We can also see which user created the draft or published the page. And if I click on any of these previous versions, it'll show me exactly what that page looked like at that time. So this is great if you need to look back and review how a page has changed over time. And there's also an area available where your users can make notes about their changes if you wish to keep track of those details as new content gets published. So we can see that over on the right-hand side at the top, Cheryl's left a note that says, from version 30, I changed our header image and added content below the main section. So that's just a nice way if you wanted to keep little tracking notes of what exactly changed as it keeps moving forward, you can do that. But this also comes with another great feature. I can go back to any of the previous versions on this page and revert back to it if I should need to. It's kind of like having the ultimate undo button just in case you should need it. One of the many reasons we prefer Sitefinity CMS over others is due to the enterprise level security that it provides. Many other content management systems are open source, and their plugins are created by a variety of developers, and these aren't always patched and maintained like they should be. Some can even be abandoned and stopped receiving updates altogether. This lack of support and the maintenance that's required can often be a weak point in security that could leave your site vulnerable. We're able to avoid these sorts of issues with our sites built in Sitefinity, and this is because of us managing it and also just being intimately familiar with the system. This CMS gives you a lot of flexibility with how you want to manage it yourself too. We can set up permissions for the different users that you add to it, and we can also provide advice on how to keep things secure as you move forward. For financial institutions especially, we know security is an extremely important factor, and that's why we fully recommend this as one of the best options for website management. So next, we'll be talking a little bit about the LKCS tool suite. It's one of the other big site management tools that we offer. It's a subscription service, so that means that it's constantly being maintained and upgraded as time goes on. And this is a suite of digital tools that integrate with our websites to make your life easier. So our rates manager is an easy way to manage rates across your website. It helps to simplify showing rates tables across the many pages your site might have, but still only having to change and manage them in one central place. So even if the rate is presented in different formats on different pages, you only have to make the change once in this tool, and it'll be reflected everywhere that it's presented on the website. So here's a screenshot of what this tool looks like on the back end. I'm showing one table here, but you could have as many of them as you want within the system. To make changes, all I need to do is simply click into one of these cells and type in my new information. With this tool, it's also incredibly easy to remove or move columns, rows, or any entry within this table. It only takes a couple clicks to do any of that. When making changes, just like in the CMS I was showing earlier, you're able to save drafts in here or even schedule rates changes to go live on certain dates. We also have access to a revision history of all the changes that have been made in the rates manager over time. This is great for compliance, as you'll be able to review that rate history anytime you should need to. The next tool I'm going to talk about a little bit is our announcement manager. So if you, let's say, I'm sure we've all been in a position where if you have a branch that has to close down suddenly due to weather, or maybe you want to warn people browsing your site of an upcoming holiday that's going to force a change in hours, our announcement tool is a very useful way to send out fast updates to anyone that's browsing your site. This can be amazing for getting out timely messages and can really help to cut down calls asking about these sort of events. So here's a screenshot of what this tool looks like on the back end. Messages are created using this friendly text editor. These messages will slide down from the top of the homepage when somebody lands on it. They can include links if you need them to direct users to another page that might have more information. We find it's usually good to keep the actual message pretty short and snappy so that it looks good on the homepage. And I'll show an example of that. Like our other tools, this can also be scheduled ahead of time. And also we can set the color of that bar and that the information will be shown on top of. So right now you can see I have it set to this light blue color. Here's what this announcement looks like when it's live at the top of a homepage. So we can see it here. It's about online banking is going to be down today from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Apologize for any inconvenience. Depending on how important this message is, I may even want to darken that color or make it clash more with the site's main colors so that it sticks out from our branding. And that just depends on the severity of the message and how much we need to get it out there. But this would help it stand out more and ensure it gets immediately seen. So we also make it easy to manage your own banners on your homepage and smaller advertisements that can be placed across the inside pages of your site. Depending on your site's design, we can create simple ways for you to update the images, the call to actions, and more on these featured areas of your homepage. So here we can see an example of this manager. This site currently has 3 banners live in that active area. And within the tool, we can enable or disable more banners from our library below. On each of these banners, we can get information about how many unique clicks each has gotten so far. And we can also make it so that each banner has several images uploaded for it. This is super useful. These will swap out at different breakpoints for desktop, tablet, and mobile screen sizes. This feature lets you have total control on how these images lay out and look on different devices. And this sort of smart responsive design is one of the many ways that we make sure that your mobile users are going to have the best experience possible. So these 3 tools that I've shown are just a handful of the tools available in the LKCS tool suite. We also have tools for managing things like third-party pop-ups, easy calendars and event listings, career listings and job postings, managing the sale of repossessions, and running polls on your site and more. So please reach out if you're interested in seeing more of these tools in action. We'd be more than happy to provide full demonstrations. Like I mentioned, everything within the tool suite works seamlessly within Sitefinity, the CMS I showed earlier. You're able to drop our custom tools onto the pages as widgets. And this allows you to simply place things like rates tables into the content of any page. The next item I'm going to talk about is our form builder. This is a tool for creating and editing your own fillable forms for your website. This is a separate tool from the other 2 I've discussed, but it can be well worth it if you find yourself constantly needing new forms or even just needing to often update the fillable forms on your site. So this form builder gives you the ability to build these secure online digital forms. Like everything I've talked about so far, no programming experience is required to use this tool. It's very easy to build secure online forms from the ground up, even if they're complex. I know that many of you will be dealing with applications and different forms that can get very lengthy and complex. And I'll kind of talk about some of the features that go with this that help make this easier. It'll help to digitize your paper process, and it's extremely useful for capturing data from any incompleted forms. This can be a game changer that gets often overlooked. It's common for someone to start filling out a form only to stop in the middle. And this can be due to time constraints or any sort of reason that might come up when filling out a longer form. Even if someone starts a form and doesn't finish, this can collect that data that they did fill in. And that can give you a chance to follow up on a lead that you otherwise wouldn't have had. They may not have completed the form, but you definitely know they were interested. And you can use this opportunity to make the next move and help them to complete this process. So, why online forms? Fillable forms are something that users have come to expect. They are much easier and user-friendly than PDF forms that the user has to either send in or even print out and bring into one of your branches. These are pain points that I promise you your customers don't want to deal with, and you need to eliminate them when possible. So nothing is going to beat your website in terms of dedication. It's constantly working to get you leads and direct users to their goals. So you should make sure that they are able to complete as much of the process online as possible. Our second statistic here shows that 37% of people will abandon forms if you ask for if you ask for a phone number, unless that field is optional, which nearly doubles completion. Less is more with online forms. So this statistic is really interesting, and what it's illustrating is how much one field can have an impact on how your forms are performing. Our system can help you identify these kind of problematic situations or fields like this and improve your forms over time. Our next stat here is that 8 out of 10 Americans prefer digital banking to physically visiting a branch. I doubt this statistic will be surprising to anyone in here. When possible, most people would prefer to get through as much of the process online as possible. You can bet the competition is going to be giving them options for doing this. So with tools like this, you can keep up and compete by making your online presence more robust. Our last stat here, and we say this in a lot of our webinars, is that 50% or more of your web traffic is coming from a mobile device. I think the or more is probably the key words here. That percentage has been consistently trending upward over time, and that's why it's important to offer forms that are fully responsive and work just as well on a phone as they would on a desktop. Our builder can easily do that with forms that you create yourself. So what are some of the benefits of our form builder? Well, first we'll talk a little bit about A/B testing. With A/B testing, you can try different variations within a form and track the results. Basically asking questions like, if I present half of my users with option A and the other half with option B, which version of this form causes more users to finish filling it out? Over time, you can get valuable information and tweak your forms to be more effective. We already talked about partial submissions a bit. This is being able to capture data even from folks who don't completely finish the form, and this can be an absolute game changer. We can try to prevent field bottlenecks. Our system will actually track forms and tell you about some of the pain points users are running into. You can find places where users are getting stuck in your forms or quitting, and make corrections to prevent it in the future. For instance, if many users quit filling out a form when they hit a specific field, then this would be a sign to remove it if it isn't necessary. These forms can have conditional logic. Conditional logic gives you the ability to make your forms smarter. You can do things like hide sections of a form until they're needed. So for example, if a user checks off that they aren't going to have a co-borrower towards the start of an application, the form will know to hide all of that co-borrower information, all of those fields. It wouldn't be needed and would make the form unnecessarily long. So there's many situations like that where you can set up different items and fields in the forms that will either show or hide depending on what's needed. The form can also provide analytics and UTM tracking. We can track statistics for forms and provide you with that information so that you can adapt and improve your tactics. And that kind of goes back into everything that we talked about above this, using all of that information to create better forms. And finally, accessibility. Forms created with our builder are built to be responsive and to be accessible and meet ADA guidelines. So here we have an example of what the form builder looks like on the back end when you're in there creating a form. Again, you do not need to be a programmer to create forms in here. Everything in the column on the left are widgets that we can drag in to that center area and drop into our form. It's very easy to drop those fields in place and then edit them as needed. So if I click on any of these, like the first and last name widget here, we could then make it required. We could specify how many columns it needs to take up so that it looks right in the scope of our form. We can see this one's going across the whole 2 columns. We can also set this form so that right now it's standardizing so that it's 2 columns across, but we could set it so that there's 4 columns that we can use, however many that we want to make it look good. We can also add descriptions and different tags to these fields as needed. As I discussed before, we can also add more complex features to some of these fields. For example, we could add logic to a field, which might show or hide sections depending on how the user answers. We can also separate forms into pages, and this can be so useful when you're worried about getting scared away by the length of a form. I know that I've personally landed on pages with forms that right from the get-go, I can see that this page just scrolls on and on and on, and with tons of fields for me to fill out. And sometimes just from seeing that, I might decide I don't have time for it and drop it. Pages can help forms to feel more friendly and surmountable. So with this, you can separate sections of the form and even add user-friendly elements like we can see here this progress bar at the bottom to encourage the user as they move through the form. You no longer have to use a third-party company to build forms for you or make edits for you, which is such a big deal in this. Usually these kind of forms can come at a pretty steep cost. They might take a long time to complete. And instead, you can create some of these forms yourself or make edits to them in about 15 minutes. So don't let leads get away. Online forms are something that your users want. If they've taken the time to go on your site and research everything, and then they get to the application and they find out that they need to drive to a branch to complete the process, you might lose them right then and there. Applications are usually the last step in a process, so don't put up any roadblocks between your users and the finish line. Let them complete as much as possible digitally. So that covers everything I wanted to discuss for those looking to take more of an active role in managing their website. I hope this helps if you are interested in finding out more about the tools that we recommend when making changes and updates. I know all of these tools have a lot of moving parts, which can be hard to demonstrate all within one webinar. But if you found yourself interested in anything I presented, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are constantly doing demos for all of these tools and would love to set up a meeting and dive deeper into them. So that way you can get some one-on-one time to slow us down and ask questions about the specifics of each tool that you're interested in. As always, we here at LKCS are ready to help you with any new projects that you may have in mind. So please get in contact with me or any of our sales reps to get started. Thanks so much for attending the webinar.